Okay, let's move on to Penn State. Their number is set at 8 or 8.5, depending where you look. 7-6 a year ago, 4-5 in conference, and yet somehow was ranked number 22 in the country per F plus, number 69 on offense, and number 8 on defense.
Mhm.
Huge, yeah, disparity there, and it does feel like a lot of that was due to Sean Clifford going down. Not a great quarterback by any stretch of the imagination, but worlds better than anything else they had last year, and projected to be roughly the same this year. SP Plus projects 13th in the country, 53rd on offense, number 5 on defense. James Franklin entering his 9th season there, and it feels like they're, in a way, you could almost you could have differing arguments. You could argue they're trending down in his tenure. You could also argue that based on like recruiting and some things like that, they're actually trending up. I don't know. I think there's a case to be made for both. Looking at this year specifically, you got Sean Clifford back again. Hopefully he'll be healthy. But if he's not, you at least have the 5-star freshman Drew Aller, which you feel a lot better about. Just it's a little bit like it's a little reminiscent of Clemson, our Clemson discussion where last
Yeah.
year it's different because DJU didn't get hurt last year, but he severely underperformed and there was no one else to turn to. Penn State, Sean Clifford got hurt and there was no one else to turn to. This year, you feel like you at least have somebody with talent to turn to. And he's probably not the best freshman they have. I think that's probably the 5-star running back, Nicholas Singleton.
Mhm.
I know they also like Kayvon Lee, another running back they have, but it feels like Singleton is probably going to be the guy by the end of the year. Their top receiver will probably be Parker Washington. He was pretty solid last year, kind of as a number 2 guy. Their offensive line was a bit of an issue, definitely needs to improve. They did lose their defensive coordinator to Virginia Tech as their head coach. They replaced him with Manny Diaz, the former Miami head coach. Solid defensive line. I think probably the big name there is PJ Mustipher. The big names on defense, though, obviously it's Joey Porter Jr., their corner, and then also Kalen King is a big name at corner. Linebacker's a bit of a question mark. So I've rambled now for a little bit about their team. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? What are you looking for from this team this year, personnel wise?
I really liked the bit about quarterback there, and the comparison to Clemson, where you have Clifford, who was actually maybe sneaky better than what
Yeah,
people think. Like, is he going to set the world on fire? No, he's not that guy. But you know what he would have done? He would have went on the road to Iowa and beaten Iowa last year. Still
he
bitter
had him
about
winning
that one.
that's for sure.
Yeah, that it got really bad after Clifford went out in that game. That's an unrelated rant for another time. But okay, is he a 6th year or a 5th year?
I am not sure.
He's been there for a really long time, and he will be back there again. But having the 5-star in there, Drew Allaire, in there, or Aller.
I've heard a couple different pronunciations. Yeah.
Okay, well,
Allar,
we know who we're talking.
I think is
okay. The 5-star quarterback from Ohio was who we'll go with. But yeah, you mentioned, not the only 5-star they signed. They signed 3 of them, according to the composite. And you mentioned one of them was the running back, the number 1 running back in the nation, actually, which I like. That's a big get, in order to keep that guy at home. So yeah, there's something to look forward to, because there's no doubt the offense has struggled. It's very apparent. They haven't really been able to run the ball at all. Like, the running attack is almost non-existent, which is like, that's crazy to say. Like, you live in a world where Miles Sanders was there, and Saquon Barkley was there. Yeah. Like, they had running backs and like real dudes. So maybe a 5-star coming in, the number 1 running back coming in this year is, yeah, maybe I'm not saying you just try to run the ball all the time, but trend back in that, become balanced again. Whereas last year, it just didn't feel like they couldn't run the ball. They just didn't and couldn't. So, okay, the number, they have a tough road game at Auburn. That game is good. Hey, credit to those teams though. That last year's game was really fun.
Yes.
When Auburn went up to Penn State. Now Penn State goes down to Auburn. Is week 2? Week 3. Week 3. Yeah. They also go to Michigan, and they get Ohio State. That Ohio State game is going to be a lot of fun. That's got to be the whiteout game, surely. And then they finish their last game of the year. They get Michigan State. The number, like, they nailed that number. Like that's
Yeah.
that's a perfect number there.
Yes, it is.
I'm going to have them going just over. I'm going to
Okay.
have them going 9-3. I think they lose to Auburn, Michigan, and Ohio State. I think they beat Michigan State. Their schedule's not terribly tough outside of those 3 to 4 games, depending on how Michigan State pans out. Minnesota's, sneaky good, and Maryland could possibly be sneaky good, but Penn State has more talent than both those teams. I think they will beat the teams that they're more talented than, and they will lose to the teams that they're less talented than. But I think they finish third in the Big Ten East with a record of 9-3. I have them going over.
I kind of like that. I would not bet this, by the way. I would not touch this with a 10-foot pole. The number is great.
Yep.
I'm going to take the 8.5 number and go under.
Okay.
It's not a confident play. I do think they open at Purdue. They also have to go to Auburn. They have to go to Michigan. And they probably don't go 3-0 in those. There's like a chance that they could lose any of those. Even at Rutgers is not going to be easy.
But they're going to be more talented than that Rutgers
You're right.
team. And there's
You're
not
right.
much of a home field advantage for Rutgers. Like, they're not going to have a bouncing crowd. It's not Penn State. It's not Michigan or even Michigan State. It's Rutgers.
I agree. I think I'm spooked a little bit by it. Feels like there's just a few too many toss-up games. And I would not be shocked at all. I wouldn't be shocked if they went 10-2 or even possibly 11-1. Like I could see that. It would be surprising. It would be surprising. I don't think I would be shocked. I do think, it's actually like, it feels to me like a fairly tough schedule for Penn State. If they would be a legitimate top 5 team in the country, it wouldn't be that difficult, I would say. Do you understand the difference what I'm saying? Like, they're trying to win 9 games, and I think it's a tough schedule for that. If they were a top 5 team in the country trying to go undefeated, it would be okay. Like, it wouldn't be that bad. But I think they play quite a few teams that feel like they're in that 10-30 range, and that's kind of where I see Penn State, somewhere in that 10-30 muddle.
That's a large bubble to be in, and there's not much difference sometimes between team 10 and team 30.
Exactly.
But hey, a little something to note: Clifford has been through 3 coordinators in his first 3 years there. This is his first year with a coordinator for consecutive seasons. So something to note. Sometimes some continuity is really good for a quarterback. They only averaged, I think, 25 points a game last year. And so maybe that's not, like saying that, you get some continuity is not great when you're not very good, but hey, at least it's something, at least something you're going to get a little bit more talent there. Possibly. You lost Jahan Dotson, which that sucks, but like you said, they're going to be okay at receiver. I really feel they have some depth there with some transfers. And like, the schedule is not bad. Minnesota, Northwestern, coming from the West, and in your crossover is not too tough. You're going to be much more talented than both those teams, and you should be able to beat them. I'm okay with the disagreement though. I'm fine with it. I think this is interesting. Do you think they're the 3rd best team in the Big Ten East though?
Yes, and I actually think they're probably closer to 2nd than 4th. And to be honest, you kind of convinced me with the over. But when I was going through this earlier, I chose under and I wrote under borderline. So
okay, fair enough.
I decided to stand by it since that's what I went with earlier. And by the way, we have 2 different numbers here, so there's a chance one of us could push and the other one could be right. So there is that chance.